Let's go!
All right, time to pull up a chair and talk some Dynasty football. This is the Ride or Dynasty podcast. I am your host, JJ Wenner, and tonight we finish up our wide receiver rankings and then move on to our tight end rankings, which is my favorite. I am joined by Eric Braun.
How's it going, everybody? Happy to be here. I'm starting myself on a bit of a bourbon kick lately, so I'm fired up, ready to fire off some hot takes.
That's nice. And you're doing Wild Turkey?
I am.
All right. Yeah, I'm drinking rye. I'm on a big rye kick myself, but got to respect the bourbon. And joining us tonight, Eric, I don't know if you know this, for the first time are two of our new fantastic writers, Jared Clifton and Brendan Taff. Now, Jared has been writing some great team previews and some of our deep sleeper pieces, especially on Andy Dalton and Gage. Why don't you tell the writers a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, JJ. First off, I want to thank the guys here for giving us all the opportunity to have some fun, showcase our work, and hopefully provide some useful info to the writers. I've been playing fantasy in all sports for about 15 years and really focused on Dynasty football over the past 5. I've got a big series that I'm working on now, comparing the projections for the top 12 players in each position group to a historical season over the past 20 years. Should be a fun look back at great fantasy seasons we may have forgotten about, and hopefully a good tool to use when trying to visualize what our favorite players' upcoming season may look like in the shadow of former fantasy greats. Check it out on RiderDynasty.com and on Twitter at UnstuckInTime82.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to see a little preview of his series. It is really interesting when you think about players, and then he does a great job pulling guys from the past who had similar years to what they're projected to be and just reminiscing like, oh my word, I remember that guy. I remember him on my team, or I remember missing on that pick, which I did a lot. Also with us tonight is Brendan Taff. Brendan has shared his deep sleeper articles on Dwayne Haskins and Raquel Armstead. Brendan, tell the writers a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I echo what Jarrett said a little bit. I've been playing Dynasty for about 5 years and fantasy as a whole for about 10, so pretty similar there. But it's just been fun writing for the site so far. Right now I'm working on a piece, one bold prediction for each team, so that's just been something fun to write about. It'll come out 2 divisions at a time pretty soon. And really, I'm just excited to talk some fantasy football with people other than the guys I've been in a league with for 10 years.
Absolutely. Your article, actually, the AFC and NFC North.
Yeah.
It goes live on Monday.
Awesome.
That's set to publish. It was a great article, by the way.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah, we are so excited at Rider Dynasty for the work that you and all the new guys have been doing. So thank you so much for joining and sharing your voice with us. Don't forget, Riders, to like and subscribe to the pod. If you leave a review, we'll read it on air. Give us a follow on Twitter at Ride or Dynasty. Now, before we get to our wide receiver rankings to finish them, let's check on the news. All right, Eric, this one goes straight to you. Daniel Snyder and the Washington Redskins are likely to receive a fine for torturing multiple female employees for multiple years. How do you feel about that?
I mean, screw them. It's, I don't feel bad at all for Snyder or anybody there. I mean, it's a terrible organization, and it's terrible to say that, like, none of that came as a surprise.
Yeah.
For as much as that was hyped up, it was like, you could have told me that about the Redskins organization or the Washington organization now. At any point in the last 5 years, and I would have completely believed you. It's a terrible culture, and it comes from Snyder himself and just works its way throughout. It's depressing, but it's just awful, and they deserve every fine they get for that.
Yeah, I was really hoping he'd be forced to sell the franchise because I know you're a big fan. And being a fan of another shitty franchise, the Jets, I tend to push for teams to get a new start and just fucking shed that old image. But good luck, man. That's rough.
Yeah.
So the big COVID news that came out over the past week is that players who test positive are going to be on a pseudo IR list for 3 weeks initially. And then they'll have the opportunity, if they're healthy, to come back. But it can be extended for 3 more weeks after that for a total of 6. Now, my head's spinning. I was actually talking to Brendan and Jared about this beforehand. Because if you were exposed to a player who tested positive, you have to pass 2 COVID tests before you return to the team. What the hell is going to happen this year in fantasy football? Does anybody know?
I don't think anybody knows. I think you're going to want to get as much depth to probably the running back position as possible, but anybody can catch COVID, anybody at any position. And if one person in one locker room gets it, I mean, it might spread like wildfire. We really don't know. We might get a little more clear of a sense once the NBA and the MLB and the NHL start playing. But until we really see players in locker rooms, nobody knows a thing.
Yeah, I'm just really nervous. I know I was saying it to Jared before that an offensive lineman will get diagnosed. Then the rest of the offensive linemen who have been in meetings and huddles with them all week will have to pass 2 tests. What if an entire offensive line is on the list? I mean, it'd basically like the Jets every year, but I mean, maybe Sam Darnold would have a little bit more time because the defensive lines would be confused as to what was happening. But I don't know, man. Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to see it actually working out. I mean, I think everybody's just been optimistically hoping and assuming they'll figure it out. But as it gets closer and you start to wonder how much of a plan do they really have. I'm nervous. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see a shortened season, games canceled, certainly players missing games. I think it's going to be a bit of a mess. And for fantasy leagues, I mean, it could cause a lot of chaos where you see, it might not be the best team winning every week or every year.
Yeah. Jared, what do you think of, say do you commission any leagues?
I do.
Okay. What are you going to do if they say after 10 weeks, season's over, everybody's sick, we can't do this anymore?
I think the only way that I can see to kind of go about this unique situation that we're going to be into is kind of fashioned after roto, like we do in baseball. If they cut the season short, we're just going to have to take the best scores possible. There's not going to be a playoff to be able to dictate the champion. So it becomes a roto type situation. That's not ideal, because the playoffs are the most fun and you make a lot of strategies for the playoff run and the playoffs themselves. But at the end of the day, I think you can crown a champion, by total points, and we're going to have to make a lot of different moves. There's going to be a lot of interesting trades. We're going to see some really big names traded because they're on the 3-week IL list. So that's about the only way that I see that we're going to be able to fix that as commissioners.
That was my thought as well, although I did talk to one of the commissioners of the league that Eric and I are in, and he said if the season is shortened, it doesn't count. And I was like, oof. I don't know how I feel about that. It's hard to tell me something doesn't count when it just happened. All right, well, let's get back to something positive because I don't want to think about the season being canceled. Last week, we discussed our top 22 wide receivers. None of you guys were on that pod. Oh, wait, Eric, you were on that pod.
I was.
You were. So you know that. We talked about our 22 top receivers, but we ran out of time. So just to go over our top 22. Tier 1 was Michael Thomas. Tier 2 was Hopkins, Devontae Adams, and Tyreek Hill. Tier 3 was Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, DJ Moore, Julio Jones, and Juju. Tier 4 was Galladay, Cooper, and A.J. Brown. And Tier 5 was a big tier. It was Cortland Sutton, Terry McLaurin, Cooper Kupp, CeeDee Lamb, Odell Beckham, Jerry Jeudy, Keenan Allen, Stefon Diggs, Allen Robinson, and DK Metcalf. That's a lot of guys. They're all in the same tier. So my question is, hearing that list of guys, Brendan, you have Cortland Sutton at 13 and DK Metcalf at 22. Would you trade DK for Sutton straight up?
No, I'd much rather have DK. I think I'd much rather have DK, and it's really just because of one guy, Russell Wilson. Well, two guys, I guess, if you're comparing him to Drew Lock, but Russ is leagues better than Drew Lock as far as we know right now, and presumably in the next 3 to 5 years. So it's DK all the way for me. I was very high on him going into the draft, and I'd much rather have him than a few of the other guys in this tier as well.
I was just going to say, I think that really highlights how messy the wide receiver groups get. I mean, I think there's generally a right order at the top, and then you get into this tier 5, and some of the guys we're going to cover tonight, and it's a pool of potential. It's dealer's choice.
Honestly, that's one of the reasons why I extended wide receivers out to 36, just to show the pure shit show that it is in trying to rank these guys. I mean, if I said Cooper Kupp or Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin or Stefon Diggs, you ask 10 guys, you're going to get 5 different answers.
Yep.
Right? Like, that's just the way it's going to go. So moving on to our tier 6 is Calvin Ridley, comes in at number 23 in our rankings. Now, Calvin Ridley's current ADP is wide receiver 16. We have him at 23. Jared, who's right?
I think the 16's right. There's an article that our Aaron Bellamy's working on right now for the site that shows a significant jump in wide receivers between the second and third seasons. And we have some history to back that up over the past few seasons, and really looks to me like the forefront of the wide receivers ready to make that jump. He gets slept on a bit, mainly due to lining up opposite of a generational talent in Julio Jones. But I do think within the next 3 seasons, which is the period of time that we typically rank and value these dynasty players, we're going to see Ridley overtake Julio as the alpha wide receiver, much like we saw what happened with Roddy White and Julio Jones in 2014, which coincidentally was Julio Jones' third full season after missing 11 games in 2013 with a broken foot. Ridley's stat line was nearly identical in three fewer games last year. So with the added opportunities not only from playing more games, but also a whopping 248 vacated targets in Atlanta, he's going to make a dynamic 2 in that 1-2 punch, and I don't think it's too long before he takes over the 1.
Absolutely. Wow, that was a good answer. Yeah, I can't even argue with you there. I was looking at my ranking just to see where I had Sutton and Ridley, who will forever be linked in my mind. And I don't know why I have such a disparity between the two, especially considering the competition and the quarterback that they have. Coming in at 24, we have DJ Chark. I always say Baby Shark. Sorry. Now, since Allen Robinson left Jacksonville, the Jaguars have not had the same receiver lead the team in targets twice. We had Marquise Lee with 96 targets, followed by Dede Westbrook with 101, and then last year we had DJ Chark with 118. Brendan, why will Chark break the trend and lead the Jaguars in touches again this year?
Well, I first off, I love Chark. I think he should be in tier 5 along with Sutton and McLaurin and the guys up there. I like him better than Ridley as well. But he is definitely going to lead the Jaguars in targets this year, and presumably for years to come, barring a big injury to him. He's the number 1 receiver on his team. He's an athletic freak, 98th percentile 40-yard dash, 96th percentile speed score, 93rd percentile burst score while standing at 6'4". I think he would be ranked a lot higher, but the problem was he came into the league very raw as a receiver. So he was wide receiver 145 his rookie year, bumped that up all the way to wide receiver 18 last year in half PPR leagues just to split the difference. And that was while catching passes from Foles and then Gardner Minshew and then back to Foles and then back to Minshew. So a full year of some stability there, building his chemistry on with Minshew while playing for presumably a bottom 5 team. He can get some garbage points there. I love Chark.
Yeah, for some reason I'm not as high on Chark as I should be. And I think it's because I don't know enough about him. I think he was such a surprise last year. Now, The target totals that I just said, 96, 101, 118, to lead a team, they're exceptionally low. Is it possible, Brendan, I know you're high on Chark, for a wide receiver to get a high finish, not getting that 150 targets a year?
Well, sure. And it's because I don't think there's a lot of guys who can compete with him on his team for targets. They drafted Laviska Shenault this year, but he's had some injury problems, and without a normal summer camp, it'll be tough for him to learn the offense regularly. And then the other guys, Dede Westbrook, Keelan Cole, he might not even be there, but they just don't really compare to Chark in my mind. Chark is just much more talented as a receiver and as an athlete in general.
Fair enough. Well, at 25, we have our first tie of the evening, which means that it's time to break it. Well, Jarvis Landry and Tyler Lockett are tied. Eric, I'm going to let you go first, and you tell me why Lockett deserves to be ranked higher than Jarvis Landry.
So I know I hyped myself up this evening that I was going to start ripping off hot takes, but I have a confession to make here, JJ. I'm wrong, and you're right.
What?
I shouldn't have Tyler Lockett above Jarvis Landry. I like Lockett. I think he's an underrated receiver. And I think that, and I mentioned this on the quarterback pod, I think Seattle's going to shift gradually into higher passing volumes that will help Lockett. But when I look at them, they're relatively similar players. Maybe not in the way they play on the field, but in terms of production, Landry's just always had a slight edge. He's had more 1,000-yard seasons. He was better last season. And they both, I think, have kind of a potential monster on the other side of their wide receiver room with Odell Beckham and DK Metcalf. So I struggle to kind of separate them. And with that, I just have to give Landry the edge, being in what I think will be a higher volume offense in the near term and slightly more production historically.
Well, obviously, I'm not going to disagree with you because I had Landry higher. I also have them very close in ranking. The most amazing thing about Landry, and I know Kyle likes to say this, that the best ability is availability. Landry hasn't missed a game as a pro. That's impressive.
Yeah.
To not miss a game as a wide receiver, as a pro. Now, he has a high floor. That's what I want. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. We have Landry at 25, followed by Lockett at 26. At 27, we have Deebo Samuel. Now, the Niners threw the ball 514 times last season, and our own Alex Levin projects that to remain about the same for 2020. With the addition of Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco, do we see Deebo getting more than 81 targets this season? And I'll go to Brendan first, only because you share a kind of a name with Ayuk.
No, I'm not super high on Samuel. I think he had a pretty limited ceiling before they drafted Ayuk. It's obviously lower now with Ayuk in the same receiver room. Foot injuries are no joke. For his sake, I hope they take as much time as he needs, but for fantasy, like you just said, the best ability is availability. And, run first team, Kittle being the top target for a while now. I think Deebo could be a frustrating player to own moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely see that rostering a player who doesn't necessarily... The non-traditional players are sometimes hard for me to put on my rosters, only because of that reason. All right, at 28, we have... tier roulette. Adam Thielen is kind of stranded between tier 6 and tier 7. So I am going to go and check with Jared and Brendan, our new guys. I'm going to let them decide. Does Adam Thielen, the Minnesota Viking, belong in tier 6, or does he belong in the next tier? Jared.
I think he's kind of tier 6.5, so I'd go tier 6. Especially this year. It's such a run-heavy team, and Adam Thielen's going to get so many targets there with Stephon Diggs now in Buffalo. Justin Jefferson as a rookie, we've got, again, a unique offseason where these guys aren't going to get the same amount of time with offseason workouts and training camps. And Justin Jefferson's a slot guy. He's always been a slot guy. And that's not really – that kind of contradicts what Adam Thielen does a little bit. And then the only other options they've got are Olabisi Johnson and Tajay Sharp. So I think he's going to be a huge target guy. He's one of the guys that I've got around 140, 150 targets. And that plays more to that tier 6, if not even a little bit higher than that, than I believe our tier 7 looks like.
Solid point. Brendan?
Yeah, I'd love to disagree just to get some different opinions in here, but I can't. I'd absolutely put him in the tier 6. I feel like everyone's forgetting he was wide receiver 7 in 2018. That's not that long ago. He was plagued with hamstring issues last year. He will be 30 this year, but like Jared said, unequivocally the best receiving option on his team now that Diggs is gone. And a lot of the guys around this ranking aren't the number one option on their team. So for sure, tier 6 for me.
All right, so let's review. Since Adam Thielen's in tier 6, we had Calvin Ridley, DJ Chark, Jarvis Landry, followed by Tyler Lockett, with Deebo Samuel and Adam Thielen rounding out tier 6. Tier 7 starts with Tyler Boyd. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about Tyler Boyd. It's almost like his name is as nondescript as his game. I don't have any opinion on him. The only person who I've ever heard have a strong opinion on Tyler Boyd is Nick Mirabito. And that's only because he went to Pitt. So, Eric, what do you think about Tyler Boyd?
I mean, I think you're pretty spot on. I don't think anybody has a strong opinion on him either way, which makes it tough to rank him when you go through the wide receiver rankings like this and you get, name after name after name that's 22, 23, 24 years old and has sky high potential. Tyler Boyd's just unexciting. But he does have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He's just a solid, reliable receiver. I think he compares a bit to Justin Jefferson, who just had a fantastic season playing with Joe Burrow at LSU, and now Tyler Boyd gets to play with Burrow. I think he's going to continue to be really reliable. Out of the slot, he's productive. He's not going to give you a wide receiver 1 season, but he's also somebody you can buy off of a team who's not looking to win for a late first, and I think that's a good move.
A late first for Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, I gave up 108 in a league for him earlier this year, and I feel relatively okay with that.
How will you feel if AJ Green plays 16 games?
I think I'm fine with that. I think Boyd's going to have standalone value out of the slot. I think he's going to get a ton of targets. I'm also a big Burrow fan, so I'm pretty bullish on that offense just taking a huge step forward from day one.
Well, it can't go backwards. So now it's time for our first disparity debate of the evening. Now, at Rider Dynasty, when two rankers are far apart on a player, we like to make them justify their ranks on air in front of all the riders. Now, at number 30, we have Marquise Brown from the Baltimore Ravens. His ADP is 26. Eric has him ranked as wide receiver 35. And somebody has him ranked, I have him ranked as wide receiver 13.
Bold.
That's bold. Shit. Okay, I'll go first. I have reservations about having Hollywood Brown ranked this highly. He is small, and the comps for his success are limited. His strengths are splash plays. So his TD percentage last year was second for all players with 50-plus targets. He scored on almost 10%, 9.9% of his targets. Think about that number. That's ridiculous. Even if we see a modest increase in volume, you're going to find Marquise Brown too valuable to pass up, especially in best ball leagues. That's what I believe. But I'll let Eric tell me while I'm wrong.
Yeah, I definitely think that's an aggressive Marquise Brown ranking. I don't dislike him, and I think it's hard to make the negative argument on a player um, who you ultimately like and think has a lot of potential. So I kind of took the approach of you're just too high. He was ninth among rookies last year in yards per game, um, but 8 of those rookies are ranked below him, or 8 of those rookies are ranked below him in your rankings. There are 16 wide receivers who have already had a 1,000-yard season who are 28 or younger ranked below him. So I think there's just a lot of proven really good options or young options who also aren't as proven but have just as much potential that you have to put above him. I don't really want to bash him. I think the offense has potential, but at this point, he's still just a good but not great prospect who had good but not great production as a rookie.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I might have been a little bit high when I did that ranking for him. You definitely won that. I was going to let Jared and Brendan decide, like to welcome them to the crew and have them decide the winner, but I'm not even letting them have a chance
It's all right.
at it.
This is good. We're maturing. We're accepting ownership of our mistakes here. It's a learning pod.
I really think this is a learning pod. All right. So at number 31, we have Robert Woods. Now, he seems to be everybody's favorite wide receiver who they don't draft early. He was the leading target on the Rams for the past 2 seasons, and it would have been 3 straight, except because of injuries in 2017. He missed 4 games, but he only missed the lead by 7 targets. He finished wide receiver 14 last year and wide receiver 11 the previous year. At only 27 years old, why are we overlooking Robert Woods again, Jared?
You know, in redraft, Woods is a guy that gets left out of that wide receiver 1 conversation pretty unfairly. And a lot of that's due to his teammate Cooper Kupp, kind of unequally grabbing the Rams touchdowns. But from week 10 on, he was a wide receiver 4 last year, and only 3 times did he have less than 7 targets in a game. He's a mid wide receiver 1 for me in redraft that I like over guys like Kenny Golladay and Amari Cooper. So that's how high I am on him. But being that he is nearing 29 years old or 28 years old, I think his dynasty ranking is in line. But I'd certainly be happy with him as my wide receiver 2 for the next few seasons at least.
Yeah, his game definitely seems to be in running crisp routes, which is what he was known for coming out of USC. I remember back on his Buffalo days when they had a stacked wide receiver core with who was there?
Sammy Watkins was there.
Sammy Watkins.
Marquise Goodwin was there.
Marquise Goodwin, Robert Woods.
Yep.
Charles Clay.
Yep.
They had a solid receiving core.
That offense was still terrible too.
Horrible. We'll talk about that later on tonight. But all right. So coming in at number 32 is Jalen Reagor. Now, Eric, you are a Washington fan and a Saquon fanboy. So your heart is in the NFC East. Based on talent alone, is he the best wide receiver already on the Eagles?
No.
Oh.
No. I don't want to say this now because he's a huge scumbag, but I'm a huge on-the-field Deshaun Jackson fan his entire career. So that one's a little rough now. I think in a year or two, Rager's certainly going to take over. Deshaun Jackson's never really been a high-volume receiver anyways and has had trouble staying on the field. So this second, do I think Rager's the best receiver there? No. Does it really matter for his fantasy future? I don't think so. I think there's a good chance he's the most targeted wide receiver that they have from day one.
Brendan, what are the chances that he ends up being the most targeted rookie wide receiver?
Low. I'm not sold on Reagor as a prospect. I think he's a better athlete than receiver. He will get the opportunity. Well, he should get the opportunity, being that the guys ahead of him on the depth chart are either old or injury prone or both. And I typically trust smart franchises, which the Eagles are, but they whiffed on J.J. Arcega-Whiteside last year, who he was a second rounder. It's not like he was a late round pick. So I'm just going to have to see it to believe it with Reagor. But the targets should come, but I'm not penciling him in for number one right away at all.
He reminds me a lot of Corey Coleman, which is
Oh,
kind of scary, but also I loved Corey Coleman coming out. So I think it's that same kind of thing where it's really good athlete, played in the Big 12, really explosive plays, and you just don't know how well it's going to translate. I think it's going to be a big hit or a big miss.
I can accept that. I can definitely accept that. Yeah, I'm a Rager fan, but I don't know why. And I don't really trust any of the other Eagles wide receivers. Although, I think JJR Thega Castilian Whiteside is going to end up having a decent career. I think he was a little bit overwhelmed in his first year. I still like him as a prospect. And I look for him to improve as his career goes on. Well, it has to because he can't get worse or he won't.
He's dirt
play.
cheap too.
It should be. All right. At 33 is Michael Gallup. Now, this is my guy. I'm going to take Michael Gallup. I loved him coming into this third year, and I think we're going to see him step up his game again. He needs to make sure he needs to perform in order to make sure that he has a home in Dallas. They're definitely not going to pay 3 wide receivers. Cooper's able to be cut after the 2021 season, which is also the last year of Gallup's deal. I'm interested in seeing if CeeDee Lamb was brought in to replace Cooper or to replace Gallup. Or if they're just going to let the 3 of them play it out on the field and the 2 best guys will stay on the team and the third one gets cut. But I like Gallup. He has to improve his catch percentage. He does suffer from some drops, but he runs great routes and is very explosive. I have to speak in favor of my guy. So that's the end of tier 6. Nope, no, that's tier 7. So just go over those guys. It's Tyler Boyd, Marquise Brown, who shouldn't be number 13, Robert Woods, who should be higher, Jalen Reagor, who isn't as good as Deshaun Jackson because you support Deshaun Jackson, Eric?
Like Deshaun Jackson's been super underrated his whole career. I don't support Deshaun Jackson at all anymore.
Okay. And then
let's move
Michael
on.
Gallup finishing the tier. Just wanted to make sure that all
Yeah,
set the
no,
check.
I'm going to go very on record. No support of Deshaun Jackson.
Thank you. All right. So let's just finish this off. We have tier 8. We have our second tie of the evening. I'm going to let the new guys jump in and have at it. Tied at 34, Deontay Johnson and Justin Jefferson. Jared, tell me why Deontay is the better receiver.
So in the immediate future, picking Deontay Johnson is more about the system fit than it is outright talent. I have these guys really close in my rankings, and obviously, we've got them close here. We wouldn't be debating it now, but and I'm going to echo myself a little bit from earlier, but Justin Jefferson is a true slot receiver. He ran over 80% of his routes from that position. And it'll take some time for him to get up to speed as Diggs replaces him on the outside. But Johnson's immediately ready to contribute further, especially with a healthy Big Ben this year. He showed the ability to be the lead receiver with Juju hurt, and terrible quarterback play with Mason Rudolph and some guy named Duck Hodges. The Steelers' offense clicks best with two wide receivers dominating the targets, and he showed the ability to be the Juju to Juju's Antonio Brown. 4 top 12 finishes in PPR leagues last year. I'm going to take my chance with him as a wide receiver 3 and a guy that should outshine his rookie season with an actual NFL quarterback at the helm.
Yeah, Brendan, Justin Jefferson.
So this might be a hot take, but I actually prefer him not only for 3 years out, but for this year as well. Just looking at their profiles, Jefferson's 3 years younger, much more athletic, scoring between 80th and 86th percentile in 40-yard dash, speed score, and burst score, compared to Deontay's 56th percentile, 40-time, 18th percentile speed score, 36th percentile burst score. Jefferson does all that while being 3 inches taller and 15 pounds heavier. Stephon Diggs leaves the Vikings, averaging 121 targets over the last 2 years. Meanwhile, I'm not convinced Deontay is even better than James Washington, who was drafted a round before him the year prior. So between Deontay Johnson, Washington, and Juju, that should be enough, right? Well, I guess not, because the Steelers felt like they needed to draft Chase Claypool in the second round this year. And lastly, the Vikings QB position is much more stable in my mind. Ben is 38 now and missed all of last year after a right elbow surgery. And I don't know about you, but your elbow seems like a pretty important part of throwing the ball. So to wrap it all up, Jefferson, first-round talent, plenty of opportunity. Deontay, third-rounder, much more competition on his own team.
Wow. Eric, you're going to have to choose this one. I can't.
Honestly, I think I'm lower than consensus on both of these players, but if I had to pick one, I'm going with Jefferson. I agree with your points about James Washington and Chase Claypool, and I think Juju's got the wide receiver 1 job locked down.
Yeah, I have to say I was with Jared until Brendan dropped the Chase Claypool bomb. Like I was rolling, and then I was like, "Oh, they did draft Chase Claypool."
Yeah, there's a lot of guys there. It's pretty crowded.
Very,
Yeah, it is. All right. Well, it's not a big drop, so we'll say Justin Jefferson 34, Deontay Johnson 35. Finishing us up is at 36 is Darius Slayton. Does anybody have anything to say about Darius Slayton?
I'm surprised he's this high. I have him at 47 personally.
Do you really?
I do. I think it's a draft capital issue. I'm slow to adjust on late round players who perform well, I would say. Draft capital is just really important to me. I worry that, Tate missed time and Sterling Shepard missed time and Evan Ingram missed time. And is Slayton really a long-term, wide receiver 1 or 2 in the NFL? I don't know. I have some questions. And there's a lot of high upside. I mean, we still have first-round pick wide receivers that we didn't get to. And I would take them over him.
Fair enough. All right. Well, that's it. That's our top 36. That was a lot to get through. Thank you, Riders, for sticking with us. I hope you reach out if you have any questions. Now, we are going to quickly hit my favorite position group. I'm a tight end guy. I love tight ends. So we're going to go over our top.
Is that a... Do you actually, or is that like a...
No, I do.
Okay.
Did that sound sarcastic?
I didn't know what you were going for.
No. I do love the tight end position.
Okay.
I actually, like if I ever wanted to play like football, I always wanted to be a fullback or a linebacker. So like a tight end is kind of like a fullback because you block, you get to catch, like you get all that. I don't know. It's like
fair enough.
The blue collar growing up in a steel town.
Yeah.
They're the blue collar players. So let's start off right at the top of our rankings. Tier 1 is Kittle, Kelsey, Andrews, and Ertz. I don't know how much conversation we need to have about those 4. Our 1, 2, and 3, Kittle, Kelsey, and Andrews, were all unanimous. Ertz received 3/4 and 3/5. So I know sometimes I like to look at the tiers and see what would it take to get like the bottom of the tier to the top of the tier. So like Jared, if you had Travis Kelsey and I had Zach Ertz, what would you need besides Ertz to give me Travis Kelsey?
It's going to take another significant starting piece, whether that's a flex piece or that's some pretty good draft capital. I think Goddard is a year or 2 away from really kind of flipping the script there in Philadelphia. So I'm really not going to be in the Zach Ertz camp much longer. I think he's good where he's at 4, but I'm a Travis Kelsey guy. I like to draft tight ends high. It'd be tough.
You like to draft them like highly in your rankings or while you're high?
It just depends. Depends on the day. High in the rankings. High in the rankings.
Eric, do you agree?
Yeah, I do. I think Ertz is kind of tenuously in that tier. I think, like you said, it's Goddard's kind of lurking there, and he's been hanging on for so far, but I think it's a matter of time before he falls out of there.
Bound to happen. Brendan, there's a lot of Zach Ertz hate right now. Would you trade him straight up for any tight end below him?
Yeah, if I was in a rebuilding phase and I wanted to get younger, there's plenty of tight ends below Ertz that I would rather have.
If I said Tyler Higbee for Zach Ertz, would you make the trade?
Straight up, no, just because I'm not a fan of Higbee himself, but plenty of these other guys, Hunter Henry, I'd rather have. Evan Ingram, I'd rather have. Noah Fant, I'd rather have. Gesicki, I'd rather have. Along with a piece, just to make it fair. But if you're not ready to compete this year, I'm more than fine seeing what I can get for Zach Ertz.
Very good. All right, so let's look at tier 2 because this is where it starts to happen. We have Darren Waller at number 5. It's very unusual to have your first breakout season at 27. Although he is just entering the prime years for tight ends, they can play longer than other positions. But do we think that Darren Waller has another 3 years of this level of production in him? Eric?
I don't. I think he kind of had to fill in because John Gruden didn't have a true wide receiver one this past season. I don't think Waller's going to fall off the face of the earth here, but is he going to have a 1,000-yard season again? I kind of doubt it. I think he's added Henry Ruggs and Bryan Edwards, and he's got a lot more weapons there. And also, just as a side note, we are pretty split on Waller as a group. But JJ, you and I are clearly right. We have him ranked 9 and 13. Ryan, Michael, Kyle, and Don all have him in the top 6. So I just wanted to take this time to point out that they are silly, and you should listen to JJ and I.
Yeah, 100%. That's the best Rider Dynasty advice ever given. If it's not coming from Eric and me, don't listen. Especially when it comes to tight ends, because they make some bad tight end takes.
Just hit them while they can't defend themselves.
Yeah, well, this is the best time. This is the best time. All right, so let's go on to number 6, Noah Fant. Now, I am personally hearing rumors about Mr. Fant's work ethic in Denver. As the resident Fantastan, Eric, I don't know how to say Fantastan.
Fantastan, I like
Will
it.
he be affected by Albert O?
No. Stop it. No. No.
So what about all these rumors I'm hearing?
I mean, whether the rumors have truth to them or not, Fant was highly productive for a rookie tight end already last season. I don't think he suddenly developed a bad work ethic. So honestly, maybe he doesn't work as hard as some other guys, but at the end of the day, what you do on the field is what's going to matter. And I think he has already proven he can at least be a decent tight end at the NFL level, and that was just in his rookie season. He has crazy upside. That offense is going to take a step forward. I'm not worried about him at all. I think he has a lot of potential.
All right, I'm not going to argue with you. It's time for another disparity debate. Rider Dynasty has Evan Ingram as our tight end 7. Now, his ADP is currently tight end 6. Somebody, Brendan, mentioned that he would trade for Zach Ertz. Eric, you have him ranked at number 4. I have him ranked at number 16. Eric, you may go first.
All right, so I have a similar point to make about Evan Ingram that I made about Odell Beckham last week. If you ignore all the times that Evan Ingram has been hurt and you just look at what he does per game, he's been a really good tight end already. He's only been in the league 3 seasons, and he's been tight end 4, tight end 7, and tight end 7 in PPR points per game finishes. If you just take his entire career average, he would average just under 12 PPR points per game. This would have put him at tight end 4 back in 2017 or tight end 9 this past season. So everything about Evan Ingram points to tight end 1 talent. He's only 25. He'll be 26 during the season. And at the end of the day, I'm not somebody who manages my team really with much concern for injuries. I think it's mostly random. It's mostly bad luck. And at least, in the cases where it's not, you're going to struggle to predict that. So give me the talented player who's young and proven to be a tight end 1.
As a Redskins fan, how did Jordan Reed work out for you?
Yeah, that was rough. But I will say
I don't want you to go into a whole nother thing. I just wanted to make that point. So yeah, Evan Ingram, he can't stay healthy. How can I count on a player who has played in fewer games in each season of his career? I am not using the term injury prone. I am not using that term. I swear to God, but he is injury prone. He is not a player that you can count on for a full 16 games. In 2017, his rookie year, he finished 5th. He finished 13th in 2018. He finished 18th in 2019. Now, I was not a stats major, unlike my son. But if I put those on a graph, it seems like he's going downward, not upward. I don't know. You're in finance, Eric. Can you agree with me on that?
It's a massive buying signal.
5th, 13th, 18th. Like it's like the opposite of our coronavirus cases. Like going down.
Value opportunity.
Yes. But I guess if we stopped counting injured games, we would have less missed games, Mr. Trump. You're playing Trump in this scenario, Eric.
Well, I can't even follow that now. Too many wild turkeys in here. You lost me.
All right. Well, I guess that means I won. Evan Ingram should be ranked much lower. Now, we have a tie for the number 8 slot between Hunter Henry and TJ Hawkinson. Oh, Jesus. It's between us, Eric. Which means it's time to break it. So, Eric, I will take TJ. You're going to take Hunter. I'll go first. TJ Hawkinson is in a better situation than Hunter Henry. Both have coaches on the hot seat, yes, but at least Hawk has a savvy QB who can get him the ball. Henry has Tyrod Taylor, who cannot throw over the middle. I know we have forgotten that, but he cannot throw over the middle. In his 3 years in Buffalo, his best tight end finish was Charles Clay, who finished tight end 16 in 2016. I will take Hawk and Stafford every day of the week, twice on Saturday and 4 times on Sunday. Tell me why I'm wrong, Eric.
Well, it's going to sound somewhat familiar. Hunter Henry, on a per-game basis, has been a pretty solid tight end. He had 480 yards as a rookie, which, again, rookie tight ends do not produce a lot. That's a pretty good season. He had 580 yards in year 2 while missing a couple games. Last season, he would have been on an 860-yard, 7-touchdown pace. He was tight end 8 in PPR points per game. He's only 25. Again, I think the talent is there. I don't think there's any question that on a talent basis, he's a tight end 1. And again, I just, I don't get scared off when somebody breaks their leg or tears their ACL. I think you just got to chase the talent and hope the injuries go your way. That said, I don't hate Hawkinson, and I only have them 1 spot apart, so I can see going the other way.
All right. Jared, Brendan, you get to decide. Jared, you pick first. Who's higher?
So I'm going to qualify this by saying that I do believe Matt Stafford's the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys in 2021, but for some reason that doesn't happen. I'm a Hawkinson.
Sneaking that one in there.
I'm a Hawkinson guy here.
All right, good. So that's a wise decision, and your stuff will get published earlier. Brendan, go ahead.
I have to agree. I mean,
yes!
he was what, the 8th pick last year? Obviously, we shouldn't trust all the stupid teams with all their decisions, and the Lions are a very stupid franchise, but the talent's there, and much younger. I'd rather have Hawk.
All right. I win. At number 10, we have Dallas Goedert, who we all talked about. Now, I am higher on Goddard than most of our staff, but our rankings is significantly higher than his ADP of tight end 16. Now, does anybody know how many targets the tight ends received in Philly last year? We're going to take guesses. Eric.
150.
150, good guess. Brendan.
155.
Last but not least, Jared.
I'm going to split the difference, 153.
246.
That's a lot.
Ooh.
246. Do you know how many they did in 2018? 229. That's why they're both good, Ertz and Goddard. That's why they both perform well, because they're getting tons of targets. Last season, in fact, the Eagles were in 12 personnel, so that's one running back, 2 tight ends, for 608 plays. Second place were the Vikings at 363. You want to talk about an outlier. The Eagles and Doug Peterson love 2 tight ends. I think we're going to see, again, Goddard and Zach Ertz finishing in the top 8 fantasy tight ends for this year until they decide to get rid of one or the other. At number 11, we have Austin Hooper. Now, I don't know why we're dropping him so far, but Eric, why aren't we believing in Hooper as a Brown?
Usually I would follow the money and say, okay, he got a big contract. That's a big commitment from the team. But that's just a busy offense. I think Jarvis Landry's pretty established there. I think Odell Beckham's one of the few genuinely elite receivers in the league. There's Kareem Hunt. It's just a lot of mouths to feed. So I don't hate Hooper, but it's hard to see him as anything more than a low-end tight end one.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. And especially because Kevin Stefanski's coming from Minnesota, who, as I mentioned, ran the second most plays out of 2 tight end sets. I think David Njoku's still going to get a ton of targets.
Yeah,
I'm still a fan of Njoku.
Yeah, I mean, they picked up his option too, so I mean that's a decent commitment there.
I'm trying to acquire him in some leagues, and nobody wants to trade him away. So I'm waiting and looking for somebody willing to let him go, but I don't know. So let's go back over our tier 2. We had Darren Waller, Noah Fant, Evan Ingram, followed by TJ Hawkinson, Hunter Henry, Dallas Goedert, and Austin Hooper. Now for our tier 3. We start off with Tyler Higbee. Now, in his last 5 games of 2019, Higbee had 43 receptions for 522 yards and 2 TDs, which is super impressive. However, in the first 3 years of his career, he had 60 receptions for 672 yards and 4 TDs. Were these last 5 games a blip on the radar, or did we see who Higbee can be? Brendan, you already said that you don't believe in Higbee, so I'm not going to ask you again. Jared.
I don't. I don't believe in Higbee. Even though I do think that Sean McVay is going to line up 12 personnel a lot more this year, I just think it could go one way or the other with Higbee and Gerald Everett, and they've got a guy named Bryson Hopkins as well that I'm extremely high on out of Vanderbilt, I believe. That was just fantastic tight end hybrid. So, not a believer in Higbee this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. They clearly were going to Everett when Everett was healthy. Once he got hurt, they went to Higbee more. But I think this just might be one of those backfields for tight ends where it's really split evenly down the middle, and neither ends up being worth much. All right, so we have a tie at number 13 between Mike Gesicki and Jonnu Smith. Now, Brendan, you are high on Gesicki.
I am.
Where did he play, Eric?
Penn State.
There you go. All right, go ahead, Brendan.
Yeah, I'm high on Gesicki. If you couldn't tell, I like guys who are just more athletic than everybody else on the field. So I'll just rattle off his workout metrics real quick. 96th percentile 40-yard dash, 95th percentile speed score, 99th percentile burst score, 99th percentile agility score, and 100th percentile catch radius because he stands at 6'6", 247. There have been plenty of athletic freaks who have flamed out in the league before, but when you combine those numbers with how reliable he has been throwing the ball, you can understand why I'm high on him. As a rookie, he was one of 2 tight ends in the league with at least 30 targets to catch 100% of his catchable balls. And then in the second year, his targets rose from 32 to 89. And I can see that number rising again as he goes into his third year as one of the main targets on a team that's on the rise. I'm all in on Gesicki.
Fair enough. Jared, Jonnu.
So I'll kind of echo the sentiment there that I believe in the workout metrics as well. And Jonnu Smith's SPARK score was 93rd percentile. So they're very similar as athletic freaks. Some of the more athletic tight ends in the game today. But Jonnu Smith, he had nearly 10 yards per target last year and 12.5 yards per reception, which were both top 8 in the league last year for tight ends. And outside of so far disappointing Corey Davis, Tannehill really doesn't have another big target in the red zone. And with A.J. Brown able to take the top off the defense and the Titans liable to see 7 in the box more often than not, that opens up the seam and matchup nightmares for a guy that catches over 3/4 of his passes. His targets and receptions won't be in the top 10, but his big playability and the Titans' efficiency in the red zone under OC Arthur Smith last season puts the soon-to-be 25-year-old in a good position to put together a season a lot like Jared Cook last year. I'm also happy to grab him a round or two later than Mike Gesicki's going right now. And Mike Gesicki has a lot more receiving mouths to feed between him and a substantial jump in Miami.
Fair enough. All right, coming in at number. Oh wait, we have to see who won. Eric, I'll let you choose.
That's a tough one. I think I'm going to go with Gesicki for 2 reasons. One, I'm not a fan of the rest of the Miami receiving options, and 2, he went to Penn State.
Yeah, that's a homer pick. I'm gonna overrule you. I'm going with Jonnu Smith at 13, Mike Gesicki at 14. Dawson Knox. Now I know Ryan's not here because he would be defending Knox right now, but can we really expect much from him with Josh Allen as his QB? Does anybody here like Josh Allen as a QB? Not as a fantasy option, but as a quarterback?
No.
Jared?
No.
No.
I love to have him in fantasy, but as a real quarterback, pass.
As a Bills fan,
I'm sorry, I forgot that.
That's all right. I have watched just about every pass Josh Allen has made, and I wasn't high on him going into the draft, and I'm still extremely skeptical on Josh Allen, especially being in Buffalo. I get a hard time around here. But yeah, for Knox, I don't see it. He was electric to watch last year, just because either one of 2 things happened. He would catch the ball and lower his shoulder and truck somebody 5 yards away, or just completely miss the catch. So unless that, the drops clear up, I don't see it for him.
All right, at 16 we have Irv Smith. Eric, this is supposed to be a debate, but I really don't want to debate this with you. What do you think about Irv Smith?
I don't hate him, but I like Dawson Knox more. I like Jonnu Smith more. They both had more production last season. I think they're in a better opportunity this year. But there's nothing wrong with Irv Smith.
Yeah, I think Irv Smith is definitely the tight end 1 this year for the Vikings. I know Rudolph is still there, which is why I rank Smith lower as a rookie. But now his 3-year outlook maybe has 1 year of a shared role, followed by 2 glorious years of being the main guy, receiving passes from the Kirk Cousins. But yeah, there's a lot of targets there. We talked about Justin Jefferson earlier. I think Irv Smith has a chance to grab some of those. So just to go over our tier 3, we have Higbee, followed by Jonnu Smith, Mike Gesicki, Dawson Knox, and Irv Smith. Now, I was only going to do 18, but these next 5 receivers are all, 6 receivers are tight ends. See, I told you guys I would say it beforehand. These next tight ends are all in the same group. So I wanted just to go over all of them, but we're going to do it in a speed round. So I'll say a player and one of your names. Give me 5 seconds what you think about them. Gerald Everett. Jared.
Like I mentioned earlier, I think that if he hadn't got hurt with that hyperextended knee, he very well could have seen the same role that Tyler Higbee did to finish off the season. I'm a Gerald Everett
guy. Gronk, Eric.
Love him, but super crowded offense. I'm kind of scared.
Okay. Hayden Hurst, I'll take. I think Jaden Graham is going to show up for them this year and eat into his targets. Jaden Graham, that's Jaeden. Definitely draft him this year. Eric Ebron, Brendan.
I don't see it for Ebron. Just not a fan of the offense as a whole over there, and there's just a lot of mouths to feed, I think. I don't think he stands out really as a talent.
I agree. I think he's a fraud. OJ Howard. Jared.
Going back to Gronkowski and what Eric said, that is a crowded offense, but I do think that Bruce Arians is going to do a lot more 12 personnel, like we've talked about a lot in the tight end category. I think he's better than Gronkowski. I think Brate and Howard both have better seasons than Gronkowski.
Wow. Brate and Howard will have better seasons than Gronkowski.
Both.
Hold on. I'm savoring the nuances of your take. I agree with you because I don't think Gronk is going to play nearly a full season. I think we might see 5 games out of 16 for him. Wow, that's a good take. Cheers, my friend. Oh my word, 22, Chris Herndon. I'm taking Chris Herndon. Chris Herndon is going to be a top 10 tight end this year and next year and the year after. And going forward, Chris Herndon is a stud. And I don't know why everybody's sleeping on him because he was injured. He is at the same level as Mark Andrews. They are the same level of tight end. Yes, Gase is there, but I have a plot to get rid of Gase. Don't ask me any questions about it. I can't speak about it publicly. But Gase will be gone this year.
Bold.
That's a bold take.
I like it.
Adam Gase is a bad coach. That's a bold take. Not as bold as Brate finishing ahead of Gronk. Wow.
Mark it down.
That was
Mark it
good.
down.
I'm not going to agree. I'm not going to disagree with you. That was good. All right, guys. This was a long pod. We're over an hour, but we got through all of our tight ends. We got through the rest of our wide receivers and news. So great job. It was so great having you guys on. It's time for tags. So I'll go through, give your final thoughts, your Twitter handles, your Reddit handles, wherever people can find you. Eric, go ahead.
Find me on Twitter at Eric Braunmower. Be sure to give me a follow. Ask me any questions you have.
All right, Jared.
Follow me at UnstuckInTime82. Wear your mask.
Amen. If you want football, wear a mask. Brendan.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at BCTaffe. That's TAFFE at the end. And check me out. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you guys were fantastic. I'm at JJ Wenner. You can find me there. You can find me at Rider Dynasty. Yeah, give us a follow, like and subscribe. It was great talking to the new guys, having them on. Some great takes. Eric, as always, it's great to see you. Spending a lot of time with my golden retriever pup, or actually my son's pup, but we're all taking care of him because that's what we have to do. So, from all of us to all of you, be safe, be well, wear a mask, and as always, boat drinks, my friends. Boat drinks.